Hello there. It is the hurricane season, so we will continue to remind you of the importance of being prepared before it's too late. Coming up, decoding the meanings of watches and warnings. Also, between the pages, Prime Minister Andrew Holness reminds us that COVID-19 is still active in our country. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your host for today's show. Stay with us. There's much more to learn and know.
For those of us who do not believe that COVID is real and that it is here, have you been to one of those hospitals where the wards are overflowing with patients who are trying to breathe and talk at the same time, but find it so impossible to do so? Or have you seen someone die in front of you, trying to make the next breath to stay alive? So my fellow Jamaicans and colleagues, whether you believe it or not, COVID is real. So I implore you, social distance. Wash your hands, wear your mask, sanitize. Along with that, we need to keep our immune system nice and healthy, so you drink lots of water, eat your fruits and vegetables. But whether we believe it or not, COVID is here, it is here to stay, it's going to be the new norm. And remember, when you behave irresponsible, you expose all of us. So do the responsible thing.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, June 8. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is calling on private developers to join government's drive to increase housing solutions for Jamaicans. The state is currently on a 5-year program to build 70,000 houses for all income brackets.
The government's commitment has to be paired with the entrepreneurial skill. And so we want to invite the private sector to pay more attention to the element of the housing market, that segment of the housing market, that it's either low income, affordable income, or young professionals.
Mr. Holness made the call Saturday as he broke ground for the Hambani Estates housing development along Bamboo Avenue in St. Andrew. The investment is expected to employ 200 persons during the building phase. The luxury-gated complex by First Rock Capital Holdings consists of 12 4- and 5-bedroom units, complete with its own private swimming pool, solar water heater and water tank. In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has reiterated government's commitment to providing opportunities for young people to reach their full potential. Mr. Holness made the pledge at Saturday's passing out parade for 235 Jamaica National Service Corps JNSC recruits. The recruits, including 50 females, transitioned to the regular ranks of the Jamaica Defence Force after a year-long training course. Prime Minister Holness says investment in the JNSC is critical to the assurance of defence and security in building a strong economic future.
Unfortunately, too many of our young people continue to find themselves as part of the problem. Our nation's youth are the future of our country. If we are to reduce the high levels of crime and violence in Jamaica, we must productively and positively engage our youth so that they do not become targets for recruitment by gangs or fall prone to other types of criminal activities.
In other news, Jamaicans are being encouraged to play their part in the protection of the island's environment. The call came from Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, Pernell Charles Jr., as he took part in a mangrove replanting exercise on Friday.
It's going to protect our coastline while also protecting the biodiversity. So we encourage all Jamaicans to become involved. Part of our objective is to raise awareness and bring attention and focus to how you can play your part at your home, at your school, and in your community to really make the environmental sustainability of our country a priority for all.
20 mangrove seedlings were planted along the Palisadoes Port Royal protected area. It's part of the National Environment and Planning Agency's 20th anniversary, which coincides with National Environmental Awareness Week and World Environment Day, celebrated under the theme Ecosystem Restoration. The Southeast Regional Health Authority, SERA, is to receive a report into the circumstances surrounding the death of a baby at the Spanish Town Hospital. The mother reportedly gave birth at the hospital's reconfigured space in the Accident and Emergency Department. In a statement Tuesday, Sarah says it will receive the report on Wednesday, after which the hospital's board will meet to discuss the matter on Thursday. In the meantime, Spanish Town Hospital's Senior Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Wright-James says based on preliminary findings, clinical procedures were followed. Dr. Wright-James adds that the hospital's management is now conducting phase 2 of its investigation. While offering condolences to the bereaved family, Sarah has also arranged grief counseling. The Island Traffic Authority ITA has set plans in motion to acquire 4 driving simulators for its driver's license yard test. Portfolio Minister Robert Montague says the simulators will ensure that people have control over the vehicle before allowing them to go on the roads. Mr. Montague says the ITA is also continuing with its solar lighting upgrades at depots across the island, as well as the digitization of its records. Plans are also far advanced to geofence vehicles that are to be examined by the authority.
We are excited about the new plans that are in place. We will continue to build out the new structure of that body while we continue to implement innovative plans.
And finally, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is reporting that 83% of workers engaged at its vaccination blitz sites have been fully compensated. The ministry's disclosure follows media assertions that workers, including public health nurses, are yet to be paid or were underpaid. 4,000 persons have been engaged as vaccination blitz workers on a stipend basis since March. In a statement Tuesday, the ministry says a technical glitch in the payment system was responsible for persons only receiving part payment. The matter is currently being rectified, with most persons already receiving the correct pay. As for those who are yet to receive payment, 32 are being processed, 60 are without banking information, and 102 have been rejected by the government financial management system due to dormant bank accounts and incorrect account information. The ministry is in contact with these persons to resolve the issues. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Coming up, the latest announcements by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on the management of coronavirus and other national issues.
Prime Minister announces recrafted COVID-19 protocols, launches National Hurricane Preparedness Campaign, and renames Denhamtown Primary to the Edward Seaga Primary School. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Vaughn Davis.
We must not leave any Jamaican youth vulnerable to be recruited into a gang or their life chances disrupted or denied because they did not have the institutional support at that critical point in their life cycle.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness expressing his commitment to unattached youth. Through the Jamaica National Service Corps, JNSC, government plans to increase its engagement with youngsters. On Friday, 260 of them, representing the JNSC's 9th intake, graduated after year-long training administered by the Jamaica Defence Force. Friday also saw the Prime Minister in Denhamtown for a renaming ceremony.
It gives me great pleasure to officially rename the Denhamtown Primary and Infant the Edward Seaga Primary and Infant School, in honor of one of the founding fathers of our nation, a visionary and courageous leader and statesman who made it his life's work to improve the conditions of the masses.
While at the function, Mr. Holness received the news that the Caribbean would be part of the United States government's strategy to distribute 25 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines globally.
We are hopeful that Jamaica will get a significant share of the allotment for the region. We welcome it and appreciate it as a continuing example for rich countries who have surpluses to make them available right across the world, right across the globe. Not necessarily entirely by grant, but certainly available for purchase. Jamaica has put aside the fiscal resources to purchase the vaccines that we need. So we welcome grants, but we also want equitable access.
In Parliament Tuesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness unveiled the state's recrafted COVID-19 protocols. The measures will cover the period June 3 to 30. Weekday curfew hours now begin at 9 p.m. and Saturday has shifted to 8 p.m., while the Sunday curfew remains at 2 p.m. All beaches and rivers are now open to the public, with no more than 10 persons to a group. The gathering limit for churches, weddings, and government functions have been increased. Memorial services are now treated as regular church services, while the public gathering limit remains at 10. Stay-at-home orders for persons 60 and over remain in effect, with fully vaccinated individuals in that group now exempt. The work-from-home arrangements in the public sector also remains in place. Existing orders governing markets, funerals, burials, places of entertainment, and transportation remain unchanged.
The government is cognizant of the devastating impact that the pandemic has had on the entertainment industry and the large number of persons who depend on the industry for their livelihoods. We are engaged in discussions with the industry with a view to agreeing the appropriate protocols that could facilitate a limited reopening of the industry in the summer.
Fully vaccinated persons entering Jamaica will now be required to quarantine for 8 days instead of the 14 days previously mandated. However, Prime Minister Holness says a negative coronavirus test is still required for entry to the island, and the travel ban under the Controlled Re-Entry Program was also updated.
Given concerns about more transmissibility of variant strains of the virus, the travel restrictions for South American countries, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Colombia, Argentina, and Paraguay, as well as for India and Trinidad and Tobago, is also being extended until June 30th, 2021.
The Prime Minister has renewed his call for persons to be vaccinated against COVID-19.
I am encouraging all the persons who are on the priority list. If you have not yet gotten your first dose, please go and get your first dose. If you have gotten your first dose, make arrangements to get your second dose of vaccine.
The priority group includes persons over 50, the security forces, healthcare workers, Department of Correctional Services, PICA, Jamaica Fire Brigade, and teachers. So far, over 155,000 Jamaicans have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, while 22,000 persons have taken their second shot. Earlier in the week, the Prime Minister was on hand to break ground for a $7 billion investment in Kingston. The 14-story residential complex, dubbed the Residences at Terra Nova off Waterloo Road, will be ready in 2 years' time. 400 jobs are to be created during the construction phase, with hundreds more anticipated upon completion.
The objective of this new expansion is to fulfill the growing demand for additional accommodation to complement and boost Kingston's tourism offerings.
And on Tuesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness launched the island's National Hurricane Preparedness Campaign under the theme Hurricane Readiness in Trying Times. He directed the National Disaster Committee to prioritize shelter operations and readiness, the cleaning of drain infrastructure, as well as ramping up public education and awareness.
Like we have done successfully in the past year, our strategy must be to anticipate, plan, and prepare for the threat, not to panic if or when it materializes.
And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica's COVID-19 vaccination plan is still in effect. If you wish to make an appointment, please do so online by visiting moh.gov.jm or by calling 888-663-5683. Vaccination still a keep. Go get your jab today.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority is on a drive to have households separate the plastics from their waste. This simple yet effective act will help to preserve the lives of humans as well as create a healthier environment. Let's see how the initiative is being rolled out across the country.
Jamaicans will have to undergo a behavioral shift in their solid waste disposal practices and get into the habit of sorting their plastic waste, which could potentially save the country millions. If the National Solid Waste Management Authority has its way, within the next 2 years, every household will have to separate its plastic for garbage disposal. According to the state-owned agency, approximately 40% of domestic waste consists of solid degradable substances such as plastics.
When it goes to the landfill, and should there be a fire, those plastics enhance the burning and give us less control in managing any event of a spontaneous or otherwise fire at the landfill.
We have two types of waste in the household. You have the organic and inorganic waste, and the plastic is part of the inorganic. So it is a very good initiative, and I believe that it will save us money and it will save us the environment.
Research has shown that plastics harm the environment, impacting the growth of humans, flora and fauna. Plastic products are known to clog drains, contributing to year-on flooding. Plastics also pollute the seabed, damaging the ecological system, such as sea creatures and mangroves. For those reasons and others, the NSWMA has embarked on a plastic separation project for Jamaica. Now in its pilot phase, the project has kicked off in Kingston and St. James.
The purpose of this program is, one, to rid our waste of the plastics. Two, to reduce the amount of plastic that goes to our landfill. And three, also educate this community on how to separate and why the importance of separating these plastics.
Our regional office, WPM, is promoting love for the environment, and as you are aware, the NSWMA is an environmental organization, though government. We are interested in the health of the environment, and keeping our environment safe is of importance to us. We want to rid the environment of harmful effluents, like we have plastic bottles.
The residents are first educated on the importance of garbage separation, and then homes are provided with containers to solely dispose of their plastics.
Today we will be issuing flyers to the residents of the communities. We'll be issuing drums, and we will just having general discussions with them about how to make their environment more cleaner, safer and healthier. It is important that they separate at source. That way it is much more easier for us to handle the waste and take care of it accordingly. We schedule these collections, right? Once weekly, they will come in and collect, and those plastics, whichever resident is unsure of when the collection date is, they can always call us. We have a mobile app that they can also check with to verify when is their collection date in case they are uncertain.
We were actually approached by the NSWMA, and we were quite excited because we do recognize that there has been significant degrading of the environment. We have been sending emails, we've been sending text messages so that they understand that what their responsibility is in this in protecting the environment and doing what we can to ensure that our children are able to benefit and see the natural resources that we have to offer here in Jamaica and, to a wider extent, the universe. As far as, being a part of this pilot program, one of the first communities to be selected, I mean, it's something that's going to give us a significant boost as it relates to the wider Jamaica, so that, you know, people can recognize that the Meadows of Irwin citizens, that we are conscious about what's going on in the environment. And it starts with one person, but I mean, if we could get together as a community and we are, you know, undertaking this initiative, then it goes to show that, you know, we can go ahead and extend that further within the neighboring communities, and just do great things for our country.
In this pilot launch, the NSWMA has collected more than 1,000 pounds of plastic bottles from not only householders of Irwin, but other communities in St. James, such as Rambo Hill and Westgate Hills, which have since joined in to separate their garbage of plastics. The drive is now to provide more residents with the resources to separate their garbage. Plastics come in various types, shapes, and kinds. Toys, stationeries, personal care items, and the very obvious, drink bottles. The NSWMA has partnered with other agencies to properly dispose of the separated plastics.
We don't use the same units that we use to collect the regular household garbage. We use a tipper, a special truck, to pick up those plastics. So they are not mixed in the regular garbage. So once they are separated at source, we come and we collect on specific days. We also partner with RPJ, that's Recycling Partners of Jamaica, who takes these plastic bottles and recycles it.
Some types of plastics can only be composted by industrial or municipal facilities after first being separated from other non-biodegradable plastics.
If you love the environment, you should ensure that you protect it. And this is one way you can protect it. Ensure that you separate your garbage. You have your garbage that you can separate for composting, and you have your garbage that you can separate the plastic from to ensure that it does not end up in the sea or drains. And if it goes to the landfill, which we are trying to reduce the amount of garbage that goes to the landfill, if it is at the landfill and burnt, then you know that it will give off poisonous gases that can also affect us health-wise and our environment. It can damage the ozone layer, and it can also, through the burning, which would create carbon monoxide, damage our respiratory system.
Do you want to have your community join in on the plastic separation pilot project? Then contact the NSWMA at 876-926-5170 or download their app from the Google Play Store to connect with the agency.
The hurricane season commenced on June 1 and will last up to November 30. The country's preparedness campaign is being managed under the theme Hurricane Preparedness in Trying Times. It reflects a mandate to provide citizens with critical information so they can be prepared if a tropical cyclone hits the country. Next, knowing the difference between a watch and a warning.
Every month of the year, there has been in our history some incidents of flooding that has taken place in some aspect of the country. And that is something that we have to take note of. Apart from monitoring and giving the forecast, we are also responsible for warnings. And so there are some warnings that we want you to take special heed to if you consider yourself to be vulnerable in any situation. When we speak about a flash flood watch, it means that there is a feature, some kind of weather system that is going to produce enough rainfall that makes it possible for you to get flooding. So it means start to watch, because the water levels are going to be increasing and there is the possibility of the flooding. Now, if we start to see that in some area flooding has started to occur, or if we believe that the flooding has been so close to an area that it is going to happen in that area in a short space of time, we will escalate that flash flood watch and refer to it as a flash flood warning. So when we talk about a flash flood warning, it means not only that the flooding is possible, but the flooding either has already started to happen or is going to happen in a very short space of time because it is very close to that area. So it is important to know what the watch means as opposed to what the warning means. Usually with the warning, we will not only issue a warning, but we will also tell you what kind of actions are important or what you should not do, like do not go through flooded waterways because it could pose a risk to your life and to your property. Also, if you live in low-lying or flood-prone areas, if it is an area that is regularly experiencing flooding, a flash flood warning for your area would mean that now is the time to move to higher ground because the flooding has already started or is going to happen very shortly. It is also important for us to know where we live, because sometimes in our messages we might not refer to the actual town, but we will tell you what part of the country the flood watch or the flood warning is relevant to. So if we talk about central parishes, we are referring to Clarendon. We're also talking about Manchester. We're also talking about St. Anne. These are central parishes. So you have to be knowledgeable of where you live so that you know whether the message actually applies to you. The messages that we issue for hurricanes and tropical storms are watches and warnings as well, like the flooding. But in this case, for a tropical storm or a hurricane, when we issue a watch, it means the conditions that are associated with the storm or the hurricane are possible within a certain time frame. If you hear tropical storm or hurricane watch, you could get the impact of that system within a day and a half, 36 hours. If we mention that it is a tropical storm or a hurricane warning, it means that you only have 1 day before that thing can affect you. So we are moving to how quickly you need to make sure that you are prepared by naming it a watch or a warning. So the watch is the first level of the alert that there is something that is likely to affect you. But when we move to a warning, it means now is the time to batten down because you most likely are going to experience that storm or hurricane. We might have a tropical wave, which is the least of them, in that it can still cause a lot of rain and it can still cause flooding and devastation, but it will not have very strong winds associated with it. But then there is the tropical depression that is a little stronger because now you have winds that are moving with it, gusty winds, and it also has a lot of rainfall. Then you have tropical storms, which is a more severe kind of tropical depression because the winds are even stronger. And then if it gets even stronger, it could become a hurricane. So it's important that you have your radio and that your radio is battery controlled, not dependent on electricity, so that you can hear the warning messages that come from the meteorological service. Also bear in mind that if you dial 116, you will be able to hear the latest message coming out of the meteorological service related to any warnings. We cannot stop paying attention. We cannot let down our guard. You have to prepare yourself and stay prepared until we are out of the threat.
You've reached the final page of the magazine. Thanks so much for being with us on today's journey. Another Jamaica Magazine unfolds tomorrow, so come back same time on this same station. Until then, go to our website, YouTube channel and social media pages for more informative features. While there, please subscribe to our pages and channels so you can stay in the know. I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to mask up, sanitize and stay 6 feet apart.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.